sick of watching the veterans of those wars, if they're fortunate enough not to come home in a flag-draped casket, often coming home with health issues like PTSD and chronic pain issues and traumatic brain injury, and subjected to the worst form of healthcare in this country, the Veterans Administration. Who here is sick and tired of watching the cost of living, everything from health care to housing and higher education and everything in between, spiraling out of control because of the Federal Reserve and other disastrous Republican policies? We are sick and tired of watching entire industries fleeing, not just here in North Carolina, but around the country, and either going overseas or just going out of business because cronies decided that they'd make more money if their paid-for politicians could poison the well here and make it increasingly unaffordable to do business in America and to hire Americans. Who here is sick and tired of watching people's lives being destroyed and entire communities being decimated by this failed racist war on drugs? Who here is sick and tired of watching an increasingly militarized and increasingly unaccountable police state brutalizing us, especially the most marginalized among us? And who here is sick and tired of watching that same militarized police state tell you what weapons you can own to protect yourselves and your loved ones in your communities while they go and buy whatever military equipment they want and stick you with a bill for it? And of course, who here is sick and tired of being told whether or not you're essential, whether or not you should be allowed to go outside, whether or not you should be allowed to work for a living or to operate your small business to provide for your family and your loved ones, whether or not you should be allowed to go to your house of worship, whether or not you should be allowed to come within 6 feet of someone else, whether or not you should be allowed to do what you need to do to live your life and to move ahead in life, and being given $1,200 of your own money and told to make that work until further notice while you watch trillions of dollars being robbed from you to give to multi-billion-dollar corporations, and you get stuck with the bill with interest. Who is sick of this fetid, disgusting system that was created explicitly to rob you and give to incredibly powerful people? Folks, Joe and I are as sick of this as you are. Steve is as sick of this as you. Steve is as sick of this as you are. Shannon and Thomas and libertarians running up and down the ballot in all 50 states plus DC are as sick and tired of this as you are. And that's why we're running, not just to give you another party to vote for, not just to give you another set of politicians to vote for, but to give you actual policies that will actually end this system that we are dealing with. We are running not just to be another choice, we're running to end the Fed and to end the IRS and to end the ATF and to end the DEA and to end the wars overseas and to end the war on drugs and to end police brutality and to end every bad, disgusting system that has been put in place to make your life harder and harder for the direct benefit of cronies and politicians. It all ends when we vote libertarian and we get Joe Jorgensen and other libertarians into office. And folks, let's be very clear. The outcomes that we are facing that have us this outraged and ready for change, these aren't unintended consequences that we couldn't have possibly known were going to happen. This party has been saying that these would be the outcomes of these policies for the 49 years that we have existed. The people who did this knew that this would happen, and they did it anyway because they want this to happen. They want you to be anxious. They want you to be scared. They want you to be desperate. They want you not to know where your next paycheck is going to come from or whether or not your retirement is secure. They want you not to know whether you'll be able to pay your rent or your mortgage. They want you to be horrified that you will end up in the hospital and be ruined financially for years or even decades. They want you to be upset and at each other's throats and resentful. They want you to be hopeless, and they want to break your spirit. Because if they can make you hopeless, and if they can break your spirit, then it's that much easier to convince you that all you need to do is give them the rest of the control. All you need to do is give them the rest of your money. All you need to do is let them take total control of every aspect of your lives, and then you'll be safe. Then you'll be healthy. Then you won't have a single thing to worry about. Well, folks, we know that the last people we can trust to get us out of this mess are the very people that put us in this. We know that this election is far too important to keep voting for the same politicians and same parties that created this monstrosity and this dystopia that we are in. That is why we aren't looking to change the Republicrats from the inside. We're creating a new thing. That is why we are libertarians. By the way, who here watched those debates a couple nights ago and what, a week or so ago? Who watched that? I'm very sorry. I'm so sorry. Thoughts and prayers to all of you. I'm very, very, very sorry. Folks, we saw why I was excluded from the VP debates for the same reason that Joe Jorgensen was excluded from the presidential debates. Because if there had been an actual sane adult up there who was actually presenting real policies and real reforms instead of playing the same Republicrat rope-a-dope that they've been playing for years. Oh, I would be happy to solve all these problems if it wasn't for that dastardly Democrat over there. Well, I would be more than happy to solve all these problems if it wasn't for that terrible Republican over there. When the reality is, anytime it's time for them to come together to rob you of trillions of your dollars to give to billionaires, anytime that it's time to make it harder for you to live your life, anytime it's time to come together and expand and extend the ongoing wars overseas and in your own homes, and warrantless wiretapping and no-knock raids and civil asset forfeiture and every other terrible policy that makes you unsecure in your own home, a total violation of your rights, they come together with record speed. It's all garbage. That's why they couldn't have another choice up there. Because if Joe Jorgensen and I had been in those debates, this would have been a no-brainer. The American people would have recognized that it was time to vote Libertarian, and they probably never vote Republican another day in their lives. Folks, before I talk about my running mate, let's take a moment to talk about our opponents. Let's talk about Joe Biden. No! Oh, you've heard of him. Name a policy you hate. The war on drugs, the endless war. I'm hearing them. The endless wars overseas, gun control, the Obamacare mandates, increasing taxes, civil asset forfeiture, no-knock raids, bombing countries around the world. Name a policy you hate, and Joe Biden has either helped write it, or helped sponsor it, or helped vote for it into law, or helped oversee its brutal enforcement during his 8 years in the White House. Joe Biden is one of the architects of every bad policy to come out of Washington, D.C. in the nearly 50 years he's been in office, when he's not busy sniffing children. And how fitting that one of the architects of this racist, militarized police state that we are growing in would pick as his running mate one of its most brutal enforcers. Let's talk for a moment about Kamala Harris, someone who has the distinction of putting more people away in prison for victimless crimes, especially communities of color and the poor. In fact, it was none other than the person that she was in that debate with, I think it was The Fly who said it, who said that she locked away 19 people of color for every white person she locked up. That's Kamala Harris's record. Let's talk for a moment about, I always forget if it's Kamala or Kamala, but let's talk about Prosecutor Harris and the at least 2 times that we know of that she intentionally withheld exonerating evidence in a capital murder case. Let me say that again. Let's talk about the 2 times that we know of when Kamala Harris was trying to have someone executed, 2 black men that she was trying to have executed, when she had evidence that they didn't do it. And not only did she not stop prosecuting them, she refused to release the evidence even when she was ordered to by a judge. Why? Because she didn't want her conviction rate to go down. That is who the Democrat Party has asked you to throw away your vote for. That is who shows up and sneers and says Black Lives Matter, and then turns around and continues the brutal passing and enforcement of the very laws that led to the movement and these protests in the streets to begin with, and offers nothing to stop them, even during the debates. Now let's talk about the other wing of that plane crash. Let's talk for a moment about Donald Trump. Oh, you've heard of him too. Let's talk about the lifelong crony who's used the power of government to enrich himself at the direct expense of everyone around him. Whether we're talking about using eminent domain to force widows to sell their homes to him so that he could build his next failing casino project, and when that casino project failed, using bankruptcy courts to unload as much of his debt on his poor investors and shareholders so he could walk away with all of the profits. Let's talk about the man who said that he would drain the swamp only to become the king of the swamp creatures. He said that he would cut spending, and instead he has spent more money in one term than any other president before him, including some that took two terms to run up their spending. This year alone, he has signed off on over $6.6 trillion in spending, the vast majority of which went directly into the hands of multinational businesses and big government agencies. Almost none of that went to the American people, and even if it had, it would have been your money that was robbed from you in the first place. And there's 2 months left to this year, and he's still trying to get another multi-trillion-dollar crony bailout passed before the end of the year. He said he would end the national debt, which I don't think anyone actually believed, but he said that he would do it. And instead, he has run up more debt, again in one term, than any president before him. He said that he would end the wars overseas and bring the troops home, and instead there were 15,000 more troops overseas now than there were when he got into office. And of course, he said that he would protect our right to keep and bear arms, and instead he has passed more gun control regulations and executive orders than the last 5 presidents before him combined, and he has been pushing hard and cheerleading for red flag laws across the country, the types of laws that led to the murder of people like Duncan Lemp. This is who the almost forgot. Let me talk for a moment about his running mate. Let me talk as much about Mike Pence as he has demonstrated relevance during this administration. A fly landed on his head. This is who the Republican Party has asked you to throw your vote away for. This is who shows up and sneers, "We're going to cut government spending and get them out of your lives."